see here. I've got the YouTube open so I can see.
Okay.
Before you switch from the still.
Ooh, they could hear us though.
They can hear.
Are you ready? Yes.
Yes, we're good.
All right. Here we are.
Hi.
Look who's here. This is such a treat.
Yes.
Who are you?
Well, first off,
yes, Andy says we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thanks,
Which
Andy.
we were figuring it out as we went.
Thanks, Andy, the one person watching right now. Thanks, buddy.
We got it, right?
Yes.
I think you can see us and hear us now.
Yeah.
On YouTube.
Yeah.
It's a new after party.
Yeah.
I'm excited. We've been having different people join us for conversations, and tonight's Kevin Borst night.
Hey, everyone. Hello.
Hey, it's Kevin. That's Auntie.
I've been talking all day that like this is a talk show.
I know.
Like a late night talk show.
Yeah,
and I'm so
This
excited.
has been in your head for a while. You've seen after party.
I've always thought it was that. I've always just thought it was a talk show. And then when I said it to you, you were surprised that I called it a talk show. And I was like,
Right.
well, what is it?
Right.
It's a late night talk show.
Because it's 8 p.m.
Yeah, it's 8 p.m. And that's like late for me as a parent, which is weird.
I love it. Well, we have Kevin Borst with us, and I think this is delightful. We're going to talk about Sunday. We're going to talk about your work here. We're going to talk about your history.
Good. Pumped.
All kinds of things. So let's begin by giving people a bit more of an introduction of who you are.
Okay.
So I think people will be like, oh, that guy, if they haven't worked with
Totally.
you on one of your teams.
Yeah, because I think I work closely with a lot of people.
Yes,
and
a lot.
and I feel lucky to do that. But then I don't know if people hear from me very often. So
This is why I'm so excited that
I know
you're
that I'm on the
here.
talk show.
The late night talk
Yeah, the late night show.
So I wondered, Kev, if you could tell the people
Okay.
an introduction of yourself.
Okay.
But like, let's do like a top 5, top 7, top 10. You know, what number is not too overwhelming to be like, here are the top 8 things about Kevin Borst.
Yeah, let's not put a number on it because I don't know.
Lose track.
Oh wait, the chat is talking about like, are we going to talk about politics? And I'll throw it out there that no, because like
I mean, this is the beautiful irony of
It's pretty ironic.
after party tonight
Yeah.
is that there's a huge political moment happening.
right now.
But right now, like, I can't see what the results are as they're changing.
No.
I'm pretty into it. Of all the people on our team,
Yeah.
it's possible that Kevin is the least into.
I'll be honest, I'm probably the most disconnected person from politics, and I like to think of it as like a really good thing in my
Okay.
life.
You want to give your pitch?
No, I don't know. It's just a wild world out there, and I'm okay with that.
Okay, okay.
So, Dennis in the chat, just responding to you about the politics. No, we're not going to talk about politics.
Wait, Cam's here?
Oh yeah, Cam's here. I invited Cam out tonight. Yeah. Yeah. Cam's in the live
here.
chat. He's pointing out my.
Okay.
Yeah, so I brought this. This is point number 1.
Right.
Okay, point number 1
Okay.
is I really like Toy Story.
What do you love? What do you love about Toy Story?
I'm a big animation fan. I was about to use the word nerd, and I was like, I don't know, that doesn't seem right. Just fan is fine. Fan is fine. And I have a daughter named Millie.
Yeah.
And she's like 1, a little over 1.
Yeah.
And my wife Alyssa goes here too. She sings sometimes.
Am I supposed to be counting these points? These are the points about you.
Maybe that was all 1 point.
Oh!
'cause that was family.
Oh, Toy Story is your family?
Oh yeah. Okay. So point number 2 is about my family.
Okay.
Point number 3, entirely separate. I have a dog.
Yes.
His name's Max.
Well, and this is kind of funny because you didn't really see yourself as a dog person.
I'm gonna be honest,
It was
Bobby,
interesting to kind of journey through that.
So I for those of you that don't know, Bobby does not like dogs. And
Thanks,
I was like Bobby.
Right.
Like I was honestly maybe more extreme. Like
You think?
Well, I don't know, but I was like I don't know if I was like afraid, just like not comfortable. And Cam in the live chat can attest to this, like with their dog, never fully comfortable. And
I mean,
then,
Cam has a pretty big dog, doesn't he? I'm intimidated.
No.
It's not that big?
Max, my dog's bigger.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just picture Cam and Laura's dog as like out in the woods.
Oh, it's definitely like an outdoors dog.
Okay.
And so sorry to Alyssa's point there. She said that she is the second point. Max gets his own point. Well, maybe I should bring Max into the family point. But Alyssa does say, but Max is the best. Max is a big, like 75, 80-pound dog. And he's like the dog I thought I'd never had. And here we are, and I love him. Alyssa and I always talk about how much we love Max. Millie goes to bed and we're like, Max, come cuddle.
Yeah, I'm not a dog person. That's weird to me.
No, totally. And a previous version of me would have been really weirded out by that too.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so where are we at in the points? We've got family points, we've got pet points, we've got favorite film points.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about your work here.
Okay, so wait, so Alyssa in the chat is just saying that she wants to get a shout out to Max and Ralph, so my dog and Cam's dog. So here's a quick shout out, a couple good pups. Okay, so moving on.
Also, I think Alyssa should take over this role. She could just
Alyssa will just like be that co-host.
She's like the Muppet. The Muppet. Old man. Alyssa, we love you.
I love it. Okay, my job here.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a turn here. So I've worked here since the beginning.
This is right. Like, this is the beauty of this story.
Okay.
I just carry on.
No.
You've been here since the beginning of Commons.
Yeah. And I think, like, what is it? Me and Jeremy and like Colette has been around.
Yeah.
Since the beginning. And I worked with Jeremy previously. And so that...
Start just talking about what you do now. And then we're going to talk about a little bit more backstory.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I do right now, I mean, I don't know about job titles, but
you had like a creative.
Yeah, so I think of my job title maybe a little differently than what like it says on paper.
I love it. We're not really big about titles around here anyways.
No,
Yeah.
but what I love about worship pastor, right? But for me, I like just the term of creative arts and creative.
Right.
It's because that to me encompasses more.
Okay.
If not.
Okay. So in the past, people would hear like you'd be like a worship pastor.
Yeah.
And you prefer creative arts?
I prefer creative just because it's just like worship is like what we sort of can do with the creativity. But to me, it's like the sort of idea of creative, it like encompasses all the people and who do the work. And what we do in church is very creative. Like, so what I get to do at church is I get to work with really awesome teams, and those teams pull off amazing creative things. So the production teams who work in the booths on Sunday for sound, video, lighting, live streaming, all those things. And I get to work with all the musicians. In the past, I've worked with, pre-COVID, I've worked with set design people.
Right.
And we've done songwriting, we've done all that kind of stuff. And that to me is like what I'm super passionate about.
I mean, that line that you said, like worship is what we do with the creative, like that. Kevin Borst, everybody.
That's it right
Kevin
there for
Borst.
me. So what I'm most interested in is partnering with creative people. That's what I'm passionate about. That's what I want to spend my time doing. And that's what I try to spend my time doing as much as I can. Like when I get to work, like you've seen this, I get to work with like one of our incredible volunteers on just like a project or something.
Yeah.
You know, and trying to help people see their creativity as a God-given and something that can be used here in the church to really bless people.
Right.
But then there's I work with the people who pull off the creativity, but then I also help try to lead our church in the direction for liturgy and worship and that experience. But to be honest, I spend way more time thinking about those people pulling it off because that has an impact on what our worship experience is here.
Right.
Like that's what I really think about.
I mean, It's really cool to hear you talk about sort of like the thoughts behind the work that I see you do all the time. It's really, really neat. I mean, you're deeply thoughtful. And you're also like much more strategic sometimes than I'm like aware of. Like there's a lot of like thoughtfulness that goes into your work. You're not just like pulling songs and plugging chords into walls.
Yeah.
You're like,
so my brother Colin, who might be watching, he has this joke that I just wrap cables all day.
That's it, wrap cables.
Like,
that's it.
I'll be like, how's work today? And I'm like, oh, it's good. And he's like, oh, you did more than just like wrapping a cable. I'm like, yeah.
That's a good joke.
It's ongoing.
Years of it. Okay, so let's talk. So you've been a part of Commons since the beginning of Commons.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of question do I want to ask about that? Like, did you see? I mean, okay, COVID is a very different reality than any of us could see coming.
Right.
But, maybe before COVID hit, like, did you ever kind of look around and be like, whoa, I can't believe this is what it became or is becoming?
Yeah.
Like, has it surprised you, the journey of like planting Commons?
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think it surprised me in terms of like, we've become so much more than maybe even my imagination was, which is so awesome, because if it was just dependent on my own imagination, it wouldn't go super far. And so I think it's cool just to see that it's become more than I think any of us imagined. And this is what's cool about working with Jeremy is like, it's been something that it was on his heart for a long time, like before we planted. And he just wanted to do it. And it was like 1 year I sat in his office and he was like, so we're going to do this. And I'd only been working with him for like not even a year.
I feel like we need to give people a little more context.
Okay.
I mean, because it's so wild to me sometimes. I forget like how far back just the two of you go.
Yeah.
So let's like back it up a little bit.
So
let's give people a little more like, where were you? What were you doing? Were you even out of high school?
Let me back this up a long ways. Let's hit up 2008. Okay. So in 2008, I spent a year, I lived in Australia.
Right.
And I went to a school of ministry down there.
Yeah.
And I studied worship for a year.
Yeah.
And okay, so while I was there, this is how I found Commons. So actually both my brothers kind of went to Westside, which was the kind of thing before this. And my brother Colin was going there. And while I was in Australia, I started listening to the podcast for Jeremy.
Okay.
In Australia.
Oh, wild. Okay.
And I listened to it every week for like half a year.
Okay.
And I knew while I was there that when I got home, I was going to start going to that church.
Okay.
And it had nothing to do with working there or anything like that. I knew I wanted to go there.
Okay.
So then I got home, and the first Sunday that I was back, I started going there, and that's where I started going.
Okay.
And so then...
And you're in training to work with worship and church work. That was like, you had that in your sights.
I've had that.
You were like 10 years old or what?
Yeah. Literally grade 9.
Yeah.
Okay. It's very clear for me.
Okay.
That's when it was. And it was a very clear calling for me. And so then I wanted to go study. And Michael in the chat is asking, was it Hillsong Church? It was Hillsong Church that I studied at, which was awesome for like just learning very practical side of worship arts. Mm-hmm. And then when I was there, I knew I wanted to get like deeper theological training. So I went to Ambrose.
Yes.
That's where I met my awesome wife, Alyssa.
That's right. Another shout out for Alyssa.
Alyssa, what's up, girl?
Alyssa,
okay, so.
Girl. Did you just say that?
Well, you don't know what kind of things come out of your mouth when you're like live, okay? On the internet.
You don't know. Yeah, I'm usually here.
Yeah, I think you know more than I do. Although with my Instagram stories. Anyways. So I met Alyssa at Ambrose University here in Calgary.
Yes.
We both were super passionate about worship. Mm-hmm. And Alyssa says bridal college in the chat. So I started going to Ambrose, and I knew I really wanted to like get a job in worship, but in my mind I was like, it has to be when I graduate. Like it was just like this thing. It's like I have to finish this part of my life.
Okay.
And then I have to start that.
Okay.
And Jeremy offered me a job.
Okay.
And I debated it.
Oh,
and Alyssa was like, you are crazy.
Wow.
She was like, you have to take this.
Yeah.
Like, this is your opportunity. Like, she was just like, you have to do this.
Yeah.
And so then because I was like, I know, but I should really just like finish school up first. Which in my mind, I'm so glad I listened to Alyssa.
Right.
She's so smart.
She really is.
So then I said, okay, Jared, let's do this. And it was super part-time at the time. And it was very just like limited to like music.
Okay.
And then just slowly, and this is the incredible thing about working with Jeremy, he gives you a little more and more.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And
I don't know. I just take it.
I mean, I do too. But like at that point,
give me more.
At that point, as like an 18-year-old, I'm just like, I was older than that.
Great,
but you know what I mean? So then, yeah, worked with Jeremy and then we just started talking about planting as a board and as a church, and then Commons started to kind of come to
be. So you have this conversation with him, and he's like, "We're doing this," like, and the pronouns are like "we," like this is a thing that we're doing, not like I'm going. Maybe he was like, "You're coming with me."
Yeah, and it was. Yeah, I guess I never really questioned if I had a job there or not. I just assumed it. Now that you mentioned it. Because of the way he was probably talking about it.
Right. But you could see it. Like the vision was being shaped, and it was being shaped in front of you, kind of also in the spaces between you. You were like, oh yeah, I see myself.
And it just felt like, so I think what that church was, I think that they did that for over 10 years, and this just felt like the natural next step.
Right.
Especially the idea of being Sunday morning, because at the time it was Sunday nights, which just excluded so many people from being part of church, and that just like didn't make sense to us. So then we started on the journey of looking to plant, and it was about a 1-year process.
Right.
And
it's really interesting, actually.
And in that 1 year, it was just so cool the way that Jeremy and the board led this whole thing. We put together committees for all the different areas, like kids and everything, and then. I mean, I don't know if we need to get into it, but then we met another church that wanted to merge with us.
Right.
And that was an incredible
And if you don't know all that story, take First Steps.
Yeah, First Steps. That's what
First Steps is the place for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's great. So you've been here for, I mean, how long would you say you've been a creative arts worship pastor?
Like.
How long is that now for you?
Well, how long has Commons been in existence? Because 7 years, right?
I can't remember.
Yeah. So like maybe like 8 years of my life.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
Oh, so wild.
But this is like my first ministry job, technically.
Wow.
Like
it's like had all these different chapters and sort of like it's kind of morphed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's given you space, and then you grow into it, and it gives you more space and you grow into it.
Totally.
Which is really beautiful.
Yeah. And one of the amazing things, and I know you'd agree with me on this, is like the way that we get to do our jobs here is we get so much leadership in our areas to kind of design it the way that we want to design it.
Right.
And that's been really fun.
Yeah, it definitely had that kind of startup vibe of like, oh, you want to do that thing? And
which for my first ministry job, it's super
like
rad.
A golden ticket.
Yeah, it's like, let's just do this.
That is great. I mean, I love working with you, Kev.
Oh, it's a blast working with you, Bobby.
I know, it's great, right? but I've also watched you welcome people as new people have joined our team, and at being someone who did that a while ago now.
Yeah, totally. Because the staff has changed a lot since I started here.
Exactly. Yeah. Although, like once people get here, we've kind of like they lock in for quite a while.
Yeah.
So it's not like we have a lot of transition.
Yeah.
But being here now in my 5th year, I guess, I've watched you welcome people so well, which I think is a really lovely thing about who you are and how you work, is that you've been a part of this thing, since before it was a thing.
Right.
And you still welcome the new personalities, the different sort of sets of gifts, the different voices, and I've felt really supported by you, and that just sort of like me coming to the city and coming to this team. But then I've watched you like offer that kind of hospitality and space for people. And sometimes I think if you've been around for so long, I just love that this isn't you at all, to be like, who are these people? Yeah. That's not who we are.
I mean, I'm pretty lucky that like the people that have come in here,
you like them.
I like them. They're pretty rad people that we get to work with.
Right.
So I feel pretty lucky. Right. That's it. It's pretty easy to do that.
Right.
But
it's a beautiful thing about you, so I'm grateful.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about Sunday. You have worked with Jerry. You've been listening to Jeremy's sermons longer than most people have.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe somebody will come at me in the live chat and be like,
Andy in the live chat probably a little longer than I have.
Right.
But...
they're bringing up like round table stuff.
Oh, yeah. People love that round tables from our previous experience.
But again, you've been listening to Jer's teaching for a long time. So we are going to talk a bit about the sermon on Sunday and what sort of stood out to you. But from your perspective, right, of having like heard Jer teach, similar text, the same text for a long time.
I've heard the same sermon a few times.
Really?
Well, no, I won't get too into that.
Like October 2007.
I remember this one. No, surprisingly, that hasn't happened very often.
Totally. I mean, of course. So we were in the final.
Yeah, this is it.
I was going to say episode. No. The final sermon of our Strange Exchange series, which was about the question, do you love me?
Yeah, fascinating question.
Yeah. So what do you want to talk about?
I mean, I want to start with, I want to bring us back to Disney because I want to talk about, well, hold on. I want to talk about Jeremy's Disney reference, which I'm not sure if you caught. He said something about Let It Go.
Yes, and it was a Frozen reference.
There was a Frozen reference in there. And I was like, I have to bring this up in after party.
What did he say? Do you remember the quote?
Well, he's talking about like Jesus talking to Peter saying, you got to...
about forgiveness and forgetting.
Or just letting go of something you've done in the past.
I think there's a song about...
I was kind of hoping like it'd be like a deeper cut of Disney stuff, but like not so... But Jeremy can work on that.
I'm sure he's taking notes.
I'll help him. Anyways, interesting question though.
Yes, do you love me? And the sermon did this sort of like backstory of Peter and Jesus's interactions, like sort of like a snapshot of this situation, a snapshot
flashback of what happened at the beginning, kind of thing.
Yeah, and then bringing us to this encounter that they have, where Jesus asks him 3 different times. He asked Peter a few different times, do you love me?
Yeah.
Do you love me? Do you love me?
What do you think of that question? I mean, like when I first heard that question, it is a very intense question.
Right.
Do you love me?
Yeah.
Like what were your first thoughts when you heard that?
That's a great question, Kev. I have to give it a little more thought, I think. I mean, it seems like right at the start, it cuts to like the heart of the matter.
Yeah.
But then, because we know these stories so well, that it's not just once. The question is asked a second time and a third time.
Which makes it even crazier.
Which is wild. Like you think right away, woo, like that's going to get, like that gets to the heart of the matter. But then it takes it's like a refrain.
Yes. And it changes slightly.
Yeah. Like like Jer walked us through the language.
Yeah.
So it goes from large language about love, agape, to much more like interpersonal brotherly love.
Yeah.
Which was really interesting to walk that out in you. And as he said on Sunday, it does this people have been wondering about this for years and years and years. Like scholars have been like, why wouldn't it go the other way? Why wouldn't it start with the particular, do you love me? And then go to kind of the cosmic, universal, agape love.
Yes.
Like, why is it flipped over? So, I mean, we can talk about that. But what were your thoughts about the question?
Well, my first thing is like, I feel like, because Jesus is asking Peter that question. I feel like I would ask Jesus, like I would be the one to ask. Like when I read that, I was like, but God, do you love me? Like, which when you carry forward, you can realize, kind of Jeremy said, like, God is actually affirming his love for Peter.
Right. It gets particular. That's what the reversal of cosmic to brotherly.
It's almost as if Peter was the one asking that question. But so that was interesting to me because I can't imagine asking God.
That makes
God asking me that question. Like,
it makes me think about the songs we sing.
Okay.
A bit. Like that they're like maybe they're not literally phrased that way, but sometimes it feels what do I want to say here?
Just talk it out.
Is there this sort of like desperation to feel loved by God.
Yes.
Sort of like, again, maybe those aren't the literal words, but is there...
Like you're reaching.
Yeah, you're reaching. I want to have this assurance of the love of God.
Yeah.
It sort of makes me think about the songs feeling kind of needy.
Yes.
I need to know.
I mean, in the 90s,
Right.
they really got, or like early 2000s, right? Like they
Interesting.
really got into that.
Can you think of an example?
I mean, I don't know, but there's just like, especially from the 90s, like some of the songs got so intimate.
Yes.
Which I actually am seeing a resurgence of, which I'm like very interested in that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
There's some songs coming out that are kind of bringing back that intimacy in a new way. But because there is like this story that we're talking about, like there is that intimacy that can be between us and God. In a corporate setting, it's interesting to sing that together.
Ooh,
and I think
interesting.
I think that in the 90s it was weird a little bit.
And we're kind of talking about that, like Jesus is your boyfriend.
Yes.
That people would kind of make fun of a little bit.
Totally.
In certain
and maybe in the
circles.
moment it felt like, okay, and as we were coming out of that, it felt like, okay, these words are really weird.
Right.
But I don't know, I'm wondering if we're entering into kind of some of this perspective of our relationship with God, but maybe we could do it in a healthier way, which I would love.
Interesting. What does that look like?
I don't know, but like, I mean, I texted one of our leaders the other day a song, and I said to her, I was like, I need you to just like, what do you think about this song?
Okay.
And she was totally into it.
Yeah.
And I was like, in my heart, I'm like, this is what I mean, we're probably skipping ahead, Bobby, but like this is like what I want for our church is to experience like a deep intimacy with Jesus in our music. And I want it to be so heartfelt.
Right.
So we need those intimate songs. We need songs that share just not surface level, but deeper feelings and thoughts and words.
That's really interesting. It makes me think about, like, when I've thought about those really intimate expressions of like human divine encounter, I have thought about it sort of in the history of the church. There are these saints who would be just enraptured with the divine, but I hadn't really thought about the fact that it was just like sort of a cloistered life. It was like a nun in a little cell off the side of a church. It wasn't something sung. These weren't poems necessarily.
They became public later.
Yeah, possibly. But when I think about reading like these really intimate encounters, it was just the person and their soul.
It was just like them and God.
It's like Teresa in the Interior Castle. Yeah. She's traveling through into like closer and closer, more intimate spaces. Yeah. But it's very like me and Jesus.
Yes.
I hadn't really thought about what it's like to take maybe the spirit of that kind of intimacy into a corporate setting.
And how do you create language that is embracing of everybody in the room, rather than just a singular me and God.
Well, this is interesting to me too, Kev, because it makes me think about, I mean, I'm married to somebody whose expression of spiritual things is very different.
Right. Yeah.
So that's another interesting thing is like a community like Commons, like my language has been, people kind of wash up on our shores from very different traditions. So, we do have people who will like raise their hands and you can, look around the room and be like, wow, you are into it. Like
totally.
You were having a moment with Jesus.
Yeah.
And then other people who are like, extreme reading a Kindle and not paying any attention to it. But you're hosting a space and your language of like, I hope that this is what I hope for our church is really interesting. Like, what does that look like in such a diverse community?
Right. And that's the challenge. This is always a challenge as a worship leader. Mm-hmm. How do you like, what are your metrics for it being a good worship experience? Ooh. Because what do you, how do you, I mean, the classic, for those of you in the, that world of being on the stage and leading worship, like you often think about how many hands are raised, and that's not a positive indication. Right. So I think for our church, like, how can that expression, how can we have somebody reading a Kindle and raising their hand in the same row and it being like a meaningful experience?
Right.
Like maybe
what's on their Kindle? I won't tell you.
How do we create a space where people express in different ways, but we're doing it together?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Right.
Like, because we don't all need to look the same. We don't, everybody in the rows need to raise their hands. But how do you create that?
That seems really genuine to me about how we talk about engaging the scriptures intellectually.
Yeah.
Is that, our language is like, we don't have to all agree.
No.
I mean, the subtext is like, don't be a jerk to each other while we're all figuring this
none of us
stuff
know
out.
it 100%.
So it can look really different for you up here while you're wondering about social issues or passages of scripture. But it's interesting to carry that through to our worship and our style and our corporate experience of singing together.
Right.
Which, there's so many interesting things about singing together, even just the science about how good it is for us in our bodies, what it does for our moods and probably our nervous system, what it does for our ways of thinking about the divine, all of that. Where do we want to go with this? I'm going down a road. I don't know where I'm going. I was like, what camera is on right now? Should we check in with the chat? How is it going over there? I did see that somebody said, Bobby, you don't like dogs? And I mean,
maybe I shouldn't have brought that up. I'm sorry.
I'm like a 20%. Once in a while, I might be like, oh, what a cute dog.
Right.
But I don't want one.
You grew up with so many animals.
I grew up on a farm, you guys, and dogs did work. Okay. Anything else from the chat that I missed?
No. Well, no.
Yeah, good. People are having a good time, though. Good.
People are having a great time in the chat today.
I don't see any American flags. I don't see...
Glad we're staying away from the politics.
Kev, who's going to win the election? Don't say!
I'm not.
Don't say, Kev.
I have no response to that.
Okay, so on Sunday...
Yeah.
We had a beautiful All Saints prayer.
Yes.
These days in the liturgical calendar are my jam. I love them. I've already talked about Halloween. We wore hats last week.
I am so sad I missed the hats episode. But
you watched it the next day, right?
Yeah, because I was off that day, and then I watched it, and I was like, oh, I missed this.
Oh, that was ridiculous, but I still loved it. So I love this part of the church calendar.
Yeah.
So Scott wrote a beautiful All Saints prayer. It was gorgeous. Yeah. He had this refrain that I loved. I even typed it into the chat in the evening. It was so good. But we are this really interesting community in this way that we have. We are committed to the rhythms of the church season, but we also sort of swing. I don't know what the word is anymore. Is it contemporary worship style? Like, what is the non-90s word for that, Kev?
I don't know. I just think like it's a sort of like, if you look at it creatively,
yes,
like modernizing. That's not the word that I want to use for how to talk about this, but the idea of taking something old and creating it new again.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
How do we update
it? Right.
Yeah.
So we do sing hymns, but we sing them in a style that like your full band with electric guitar and great drum kit.
Yeah.
Other cool beats.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So we have this incredible spectrum of experience. We mark Lent, we mark Advent, but we also mark these a little bit more obscure church season days, something like All Saints Day, which again speaks to me. I realize as I get older that in times of struggle, I tend to reach for more liturgy, or in times of maybe even if I'm not so conscious of it, if I'm sort of taking something apart, I tend to lean a little bit more on prayers like the Lord's Prayer or my prayer books. But again, I was formed quite liturgically, having been a child in the Catholic Church. Yeah. So I'm really curious about where you come from and what you bring to our really full spectrum of worship here at Commons, from liturgy, responsive readings, the Eucharist, to lights, film pieces, you know, that kind of stuff.
Because I think like, okay. So backing it up, like I have a slightly similar story in that the like I grew up in a Christian Reformed church.
Okay.
And honestly, it was a fantastic church growing up. And side note, they did so much for me in just blessing me with the space as a very young person to like lead worship and stuff and let me make mistakes.
How old were you when you were up front leading worship?
Like high school and stuff, right?
I love that.
And I think
with like a floppy hair, do you?
Totally long hair.
Did you do like a lot of?
Oh yeah, I mean it was a different time. So.
Oh, I love that.
So they blessed me with that, and I always I felt when I went there like I was just exploring worship so much, and like how far you could go with it in different ways, and they pretty liturgical, not like probably different than your experience,
yes,
but definitely responsive readings and prayers that you recite over and over again, following the church calendar. That's all standard stuff for me growing up. So that's super familiar to me. But I always felt like I just wanted to, like, they felt like they could be meaningful, but they weren't meaningful.
Okay.
And, but it didn't mean that we shouldn't do them. But I was like, this doesn't.
How did you have that sense? Like you felt like that's a really interesting phrase. I felt like it could be meaningful, but it didn't feel. I mean, I could say the same about growing up in my little Catholic parish. I think, I think I think that's an interesting thing about liturgy, is that it's shaping you even if you don't feel that into it. Like it's like seeping in all these really interesting ways, so that when you kind of need it, it's like you learn something by how your body was or the way you were in relationships with people.
Right. Yeah.
Which is really interesting. But your phrase, I find that phrase really interesting.
I think it's because it's
that
just
you longed for something a bit more.
Right.
Was it spiritual?
Yeah.
Or communal?
I mean, I think that there was this part of me. I mean, like so many people, I probably went through so many different phases where like I wanted to go like super Pentecostal.
Okay.
In response to that.
Okay.
Like I want to like turn the other way.
Yeah.
And I definitely like pushed into that.
Yeah.
In high school and different times of my life. But I've kind of feel like I've seen so many different expressions.
Right.
But how can I guess I just, when it came to Commons, I was like, well, how can we just like bring some of these things together?
Yeah.
But here's the beautiful part about it is.
Ooh, tell me, Kevin.
I just don't think I would have been able to. I just don't think if it was just me creating the content, it probably wouldn't have ended up like this. But since I get to work with people like you who have a very deep connection to some of these liturgy pieces, it's been so much easier.
Well, you literally spin your chair around and say, Bobby, can you write the Eucharist?
That
Bobby,
happens a lot.
Can you write the Advent Purse?
Do that for years.
Bobby.
Quick question,
Which
Bobby.
I love.
Yeah.
But
I think, but the thing is I left that in your hands and you just took it a certain way.
Right. That is a lovely thing. You were never like, can you change this? I was always like, this is how this will go, Kevin.
Yes. And I'm like, great, I'll add the music. That's the thing. So like, as far as what our liturgy looks like and feels like and sounds like, that's been formed by a lot of different people and not just me.
Right.
But for me, I've been the one I think who's been like, okay, we're going to do that content, but I want to make sure that the transition into it is really good. The transition out of it is good. I want to make sure the music is good. What is the visuals? How are we presenting it? Because you can have the best content in the world, but if it's not communicated properly, no one's going to receive it.
Sort of a curated
So
experience.
I felt like growing up, I was seeing this really good liturgy, but it was not delivered in a way that maybe it could have been.
And connected with you.
So for me, the way that I'm imagining is like, what if you just delivered it this way? And so then that's been the stuff that I'm passionate about. How do we take these really, these pieces that are meaningful from history, like the Lord's Prayer, for example.
Right.
And how do you just present it in a way that's more meaningful so that people want to engage with that?
Yeah, and
it
enter
has to be
into
appealing.
it.
It has to be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, oddly, though, where I went in my mind was just even how we work on little cues.
Yeah.
So you wrap up singing, and then we're always, if I'm jumping on the stage to do the worship element, like we're in sync about when to step up onto that stage so that the music is like kind of going down at the right moment. And it's comforting to me because I feel like I'm sort of carried in that moment and held. But it also, it's really interesting to think about that is what welcomes people into. There's the distraction. We're just sort of
it's kind of it's an interesting debate. Like I feel like people, I've heard some people who don't want church to be so produced in that way.
Right.
And I totally respect that. But for me, it comes down to like in those moments, like we're like people are like letting their hearts out a bit.
Yeah.
And I need to like hold that really gently.
Oh, Kevin, this is why I trust you. This is why I trust you.
You have to hold it gently. Like I just don't want to mess this up for somebody.
Right.
Someone is having
You're hosting
a legit moment with God.
Yeah.
I cannot I need to like recognize that as a real thing happening.
Yeah.
How do we like create an atmosphere that doesn't just like kill that, but that like actually like encourages that and leads them from one moment to the next in our service, from a song to a prayer or something like
even just like a community life announcement.
Seriously, how do you do that?
Like,
because
we're still inviting you into something that is meaningful. And
you
worth
have
your
to.
time.
And how do you close those moments for people? And like how do you invite them towards those moments? Like that and same with, so back to it, like the Lord's Prayer and stuff. How do you like usher those moments in a way that's really meaningful as opposed to just like delivering it, which is why we need talented people like yourself to do that, right? Like and why we need a talented team to like help pull that off,
and why like our theological background really matters. Like I, in my previous community in Vancouver, I would write kids moments, and I was not a great children's youth minister, but that was the job I had. So I would write the heck out of these like 5-minute moments where kids would come forward in the service and I would do like a little sermon. But I remember thinking like, oh, I put every bit of my MDiv into this moment. Like that became a big value for me. So all of our moments are created by people who are digging into their theological education or have sort of like completed a big truckload of theological education. We really value that being informed, that even those little sentences like poems read on your screens, it's all really.
And what I find so sad is like when someone puts so much time into something, but then it's not well lit. Or you can't hear them.
Right.
Or the mic keeps cutting out. Like those are things I care about.
Yeah.
Because all that work you've done is for nothing. If you can't hear it.
No, you can't hear it.
So that's why I think so much about that stuff.
Oh, yeah, it's so good. That's really good. It's good that you think about that stuff. So let's see. Interesting thing. You had a question. You were working on a bit of a worship thought experiment that we didn't talk through today when we were chatting.
Earlier today, I told Bobby that I had this. I had a question around worship, or it was like a statement.
Oh, statement
question that I wanted to discuss. Here's the thing to everybody watching: like, I don't have this fully fleshed out.
This is great
because I don't know. I don't know where. So this is something that's been on my heart for so long, and I want to hear your input. I want to hear what you have to say.
What if I want to just think about it? Then I'll reserve that right.
You will reserve that right, but I want to hear something. Okay, so here we go.
Okay.
So this is sort of my thoughts. I think so much about the songs we sing, what songs we sing, the words we're using, all that kind of stuff. So something I've been like kind of thinking about so much is that the songs we sing matter, and the songs we sing don't matter at all.
Oh, Kevin.
And so, and maybe it's more about like which songs we sing. I don't know how to phrase it best, but this is just something that has been on my heart so much, thinking about the songs and like how, in a sense, they matter so much. Like which songs, or like what their words are, what they sound like. And in a sense, they don't matter at all in those moments. So what are your thoughts? Like
I did not see that coming.
Okay.
But okay.
So we can break it down by why it matters.
Yes.
And then why it doesn't matter.
Okay. I like that. Yeah.
Because I feel that's how I'm sort of thinking through this.
Okay.
And I sort of am led to this question because of the time we spend, especially in the worship community, thinking about like what songs we're singing.
Yeah, okay.
And, or when I hear feedback about people not liking a song or people liking a song, these are like sort of my thoughts that come through my head.
Okay.
So like, why do the songs we sing matter?
Okay, this is
our first part.
This is good. Okay. Well.
And this one's almost a little easier.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah. I mean, words matter.
That's just it.
Words matter. Yeah. And they shape our imagination. We use imagination language a lot, and I think it's beautiful and really helpful. And words can, so, and like poetry, literature, expression, it really matters. It opens space for you. Yeah. It expands your imagination for the divine. It expands your imagination for prayer, for worship, for posture in the world. So I spent a lot of time and money on my theological education. Words are a huge part of that.
Yes.
So it
to get
matters.
It right.
I think there's a tradition piece there. You know, can you say your phrase again?
Like why the songs we sing matter and why they don't matter.
The songs we sing matter and why they don't matter. Yeah.
But so much about lyrics.
So much about
like lyrics are.
It's like the content. It's
the content.
Yeah. It's like the nuts and bolts or the building blocks of the thing.
And I think the songs, they have to like at a basic level have to have the theme of Jesus, like and the theme of like you know, if it doesn't have that, then like that's what makes it matter. Right. So that has to be in there, a Christ center.
I think about kids too.
Yeah.
And how much music in our liturgy has the potential to kind of, you know, seep in and shape who they are being formed to be.
Millie is obsessed with music.
Yeah.
And, like my daughter. And she just like all she wants to do is like listen to songs and like dance and stuff.
Well, at dinner tonight, you put up a little story and you said, do you want to have, listed. Yeah, that's right. Do you want to have a dance party? And she was like so excited. She knew exactly what that meant.
Yeah.
And I think again, back to kind of where we come from and how it shapes us when we're younger. Like I didn't know what was shaping me in my little Catholic parish, but there's a song, a chorus that is sung at all kinds of Catholic
okay, so we haven't sung it here.
We would not be singing it here. But it is a song that is sung at funerals and on Sunday in Mass. And in our little parish in Gerald, Saskatchewan, it was sung all the time. And it the words go, be not afraid, I go before you always, come follow me and I will give you rest. And when I have been in like difficult places, loss, that is where I go. Like it is one of the first songs that returns to me and sort of carries me through. And you know, who sung it was like, you know, my cousin's uncle and my hairdresser. You know, these are the people, my neighbors who led that song. Did it sound great every Sunday? No, but that song still meets me, you know, in really interesting and surprising places. I wasn't even a good Catholic kid. Like, don't go thinking I was like front row anything. We were like back row, you know, like the loud kids probably.
I love that story because like, I think that when people come to church, they want that familiarity because they want to go back to an experience they had before.
Maybe.
And it's so often people are like, hey, like, can you sing that old whatever?
Right.
And I think they want that because there was this one time they had this moment with God.
Right.
And so if we repeat that song, like maybe they can take those emotions again.
I don't ever want to sing this song here. I'm never asking you to do that.
No, this is just what kind of like hits me when you say that.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
People are desiring those moments because songs are stories.
Songs are stories. And they have all these layers of emotion, nostalgia, like you said.
But then also there's hurt too. So some of the language we use might bring up some hurt for people.
Okay, so let's go to the next part.
Okay, so why they don't matter.
Why they don't matter at all, didn't you say?
Yeah, like why like what songs we sing just do not matter. I just like to emphasize that.
This is so interesting. This is interesting because we are people who very much get to personally choose everything about our lives. Like you choose
Yes.
what color phone you have, which MacBook you're gonna have,
Totally.
what house you live in, what city you live in. Like
so many
we are
choices.
all about personal choice.
Yeah.
So we want that from our worship experience. We are consumers. We
Yes.
consume the thing.
Yeah.
So I want the songs to be the ones I like.
Exactly.
Yeah, that kind of like, I'm entitled to
Yes.
this. This is
Yes.
like my church experience.
Exactly.
So I like what your phrase is doing to that. It's
Yes.
sort of like, sit down.
And I hope that's not what people hear when I say
Sit down. Not that, of course, we care about where the community is at and how
Totally.
they're engaging.
And we take feedback like really seriously.
Really
Yeah.
we really take it seriously.
Yeah.
But I think some of the language I know Jeremy certainly used is that if you feel like you can't sing the song, let the people sing it for you. And maybe that's coming from a bit of a different emotional place. But I mean, I've talked publicly from the stage about my own issues with some of the language.
You and I have talked about a lot of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could talk about it all the time with you.
Yes. Yeah, we have talked about it. Which is why I'm asking you this question. No. Yeah.
But the point of me standing with the songs that we sing, there might be metaphors that are just old for me. I don't care for them. I don't prefer a male pronoun for the divine. I don't use it. It's not my jam. But all our songs have them. I change it in my head and with my mouth, and we wear masks now, so nobody can be like, well, what song is she singing?
Because that's other people do, yeah.
But there's also a part of me that's like, doesn't matter, Bobby. Doesn't really matter. You sing this with your people, with your community. These metaphors matter to other people. They matter to our tradition. I'm not ever saying, because I'm not really down with a metaphor, other people should get rid of it too.
But it's this cycle because we talk like this and then we go back to, the songs we sing matter.
Yeah.
That's why it's an and.
Yeah.
That's why it's both.
Yeah.
Because you can't start talking about one without recognizing the other.
Totally. We just
it
swung back into it.
But on the don't matter, like I think, so like my goal for our church, and I think what brings us to a maturity in worship is that no matter what songs we're singing, no matter what distractions are in the room right now, we're embracing those distractions, we're embracing the moment, and we're choosing to spend a moment with God in that moment, no matter what's being sung.
Right.
Like I just think about, and I do think this is what separates our church from some other churches.
Okay.
We are only 7 years old.
Yeah.
There is a worship maturity that takes a lot of time.
Interesting.
And it is so incredible to me how far we've come.
Yeah.
Like I could talk so long about the fact of like where we were in sort of our participation in worship and what worship looked like from there to now.
Interesting.
And because we're building this culture of worship in our church. And that's what's important to me. And that's why to a degree the songs don't matter, because I just want people to choose, like you have a decision in that moment to engage not with the song, but engage your heart with the people around you, with God in those moments. So how do you create a culture that encourages people to participate regardless of the songs?
So interesting.
That's the tough question.
While still caring, about the theology of the song.
Exactly.
And we've talked about that as a team. Like, we don't want to preach something that sounds nothing like the songs we sing earlier in the service. Like, that's such a sort of strange disconnect. Like, we don't want to sort of like trouble the water so much for people. Like, whoa, how disorienting would that be? But I really, so I want us to push for theologically robust, expansive, creative music.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the invitation to maturity in terms of maybe the song isn't your favorite, but it's likely somebody's. And what does it mean? And I did have I was thinking about an experience I had quite a while ago when a song sort of caught me off guard. We were singing and I was like, I'm not into this song. And then I found myself singing it for somebody not in the room at all, that I was like, ooh, they're going through a time. And all of a sudden the lyrics really took on a very different meaning.
Interesting.
And I was like, it was one of those times I was in the front, needed to step onto the stage. And I thought, can I? Of course I can. But the thought was like, oh, that song became a song for the heartbreak of a situation I was holding with me. I didn't even realize how close to the surface it was for me until the song sort of allowed it and welcomed it. And it wasn't a song for me. It was a song that I needed to sing with my own voice, with the community, for a situation I carried.
And isn't that fascinating how that's like that can happen?
Totally.
Like that it's just like the scriptures. Like you don't know what you're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
And
it's living.
It's living. It's like a living moment, you know? And I think that can happen at concerts. I think it can happen all over the place. And I think in church, we get this incredible opportunity to have that moment regularly. Right. And you come into church and you feel different than the week before. Like you're not always like have the same experience. Yeah. But I think that we must be able to hold each other up in those moments. You know what I mean? Yeah. And yeah.
Nice, Kevin.
Well,
that is lovely.
I appreciate your thoughts.
I'm going to keep thinking about it. I really like that phrase. I'm going to write it down and just kind of keep thinking about it. It's great. Yeah. So we're wrapping up.
Oh, that's it. Talk show's over.
The late night talk show.
The late night talk show. I mean,
I know. I like that your mom popped into the chat, which is lovely.
Thanks, Mom.
Oh, Audrey, thank you. That's lovely. So I like to end with gratitude.
Oh, okay, cool.
So what are you feeling grateful for as we wrap up?
Anything?
Anything. Oh. It's just a free-for-all. Gratitude.
Fantastic.
Extravaganza.
We just bought a house, Alyssa and I, and I feel so thankful for that. The timing is incredible, and we're just so excited for our family.
This is great.
So thankful. Going into the winter months, you know how I feel about snow. That we get to just like do something new in life like this, especially during like COVID. It's just like this amazing, like so many of us are talking about like what are we looking forward to in life right now. Yeah. And like I feel so lucky that we get to kind of take this step as a family. Yeah.
I mean, this after party's really been about these kinds of transitions, because I also bought a house. Jonathan and I bought a house, and we've talked about it during after party. You guys have bought a house. We're talking about during after party. It's perfect. So I love that. I love it.
How about yourself?
I am feeling thankful for the sun and the moon. And
let's expand.
As I drove up tonight, you know, I could see the moon. It was huge, and it was like just coming through a dark cloud. And I thought, the sun rises and the moon circles the earth, and we don't know what politics will serve up for us, but we live in this cosmic space where the sun rises and sets. And
I love that. I want to go back to liturgy talking about that, but I'm going to hold on. Yeah.
So I feel grateful for the celestial bodies.
I did notice the moon last night, like coming home, and it was just so bright. And I thought it was like a street light. Yeah. So like I definitely noticed that too.
So great. Yeah. It's great. It's a good reminder. Kevin, thank you so much for joining After Party. We'll do this again.
This is great.
I think the people had a good time.
I think the people had a great time in the chat. And I see my brother Michael is talking about closing off with some lecturing coverage. Not going to do that.
I know. But I'm like reaching for my phone right now.
I'm not. And Alyssa's talking about Disneyland 2021. I hope so.
Oh, I know. I
really hope so.
You guys and Millie at Disneyland. Yeah. Oh, thanks everyone for jumping in and being a part of the live chat and welcoming Kevin to After Party. It's been
Bobby.
A treat.
This has been
Kev.
awesome.
So
this
fun.
is super awesome.
Okay, now I got to turn this off.
Yeah, press that off. See you later.